Hi, I'm excited to welcome Mo to this conversation. And Mo is the CEO of Boomerang, which is a tool I remember from back in the early days of figuring out how to be using email efficiently back in the 2010, 2011 period they launched. They have 2 million users across the various products. Not only are they on Gmail, work with Gmail and Outlook, but also for iOS and Android. They're one of the biggest Chrome extensions out there. They have 8 million in recurring revenue, 15 employees, going up to 19 soon for 2023. And they're headquartered in California, but they're a remote team. And Mo is the co-founder and now CEO. And I'm a fan of Boomerang, someone who has used it for years and years. And for those who haven't used it or have no idea what Boomerang is, Mo, can you give us a quick summary of why it's useful? Why do so many people use it?
I believe when we came out with Boomerang, email has been about 30 years technology. People complain about email, but they want that many solutions to make those problems a little bit better for everybody. So we started with a lot of the problems we were having ourselves, right? Remembering to follow up on items. Uh, Somebody say, I'll get it back to you on X amount of days, and making sure that you actually get those items, right? Or you will have time to write the email now, but you don't necessarily want to be online and sending the email at the time that they need it, because we know that a well-timed email has a better response rate and better likelihood of outcome that you want, right? So you want to not send an email on Friday at 5, but that's when you have time to write. We want to be able to schedule the email. So that's where we started when we first started. But it has evolved into much more robust productivity suite, along with real-time AI assistant tool that helps you write better email by analyzing, as you're writing, what factors should go into kind of determining whether you're going to get a response or not and how you should fix it. We also added, mostly because we have started to see how much interruptions are having an impact on people's day-to-day life. And now that we have moved to remote, it's even become worse. So inbound pause is another thing that we added, where you can stop the flood of new incoming emails while you still have access to your current inbox and working on it. Then the last thing that we added, so since I became the new CEO, and we released a suite of meeting scheduling tools to make you a lot better at scheduling meetings with people external to your organization. So we have seen a lot of tools out there where you can offload the work of meeting scheduling to the recipient, saying, here's a link, go find a time. We really wanted to rethink that experience for both sides of the aisle. I'm sending it. I wanted to make it easy for me, but you're getting this meeting request with specific times, and you should be able to determine, hey, what time zone it is in, right? Am I available or not? And make all those determinations without ever leaving your inbox, which reduce so much of the mental load and hassle on the recipient side, that you get a much better response rate, in the sense that you book a meeting quickly, and also reduce the time between the time that you send to the time that they book. The longer that lag time is, the more your schedule can change, and the more issues you have, and the more things can move. So we try to make sure that the the meeting scheduling request that you gave is live, so that regardless of how your meeting and schedules are changing, the recipient is always seeing the latest up-to-date information. So you never have this, oh, I gave you this time, Tuesday at 2, but it's no longer available. The problem that we all know too well. We eliminate that by having it live. And then also sometimes I am giving you a meeting scheduling request, but you are on vacation. You might be on your honeymoon. You might be on your sabbatical for 3 months. When you come back, that meeting scheduling request should still be live and up to date, so that you don't have to be like, oh, the times that you gave me are all in the past. Here's where it is.
So on the one hand, it's an alternative to Calendly and
Mhm.
Cal.com and Zcal and all these other kind of
Yeah.
calendar appointment tools, but it's also in a way competing with some of the new calendar tools like Magical, Akiflow, Vimcal.
Hmm.
There are a variety of these kind of new tools. How do you see it competing against those new calendar tools? Because those also have those pick pick a specific time kind of
Yes.
feature?
We have a lot of the pick a specific time in the email itself. They are not live because they are using HTML and text. We are actually using live image. So we are the only tool in the market that has the integration that you see from the new breed of technology that you're talking about is in the email with all the specific time included. With the Calendly, it doesn't matter what time because it's a running time list, right? It's not exactly locked into the times that you just gave. So we're combining the best of both worlds, and we have actually patents to protect our IP. So this time people can actually just do whatever we're doing.
In terms of the other features you mentioned, postponing an email to later,
Mhm.
sending an email in the morning versus sending it now late at night when I'm working on it, right?
Uh-huh.
And pausing the inbox. Can you tell us, give us a couple of tips on making the most of that? So, for example, if we're postponing email, when should we postpone it to? What are your kind of best
Less
practices,
times? Yes.
guidance? Yeah.
So I have a little bit of a trick. I go around Monday, right around lunch, because you want to let people have their Monday morning getting back into the week without interrupting with your email. And then they will have the pile up, and you want to be at the end of that pile up for them to deal with it. Again, we also found around Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons are a good time to send emails because people tend to have some more open time. It also the best time to send meeting requests is Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoons are usually when people prefer to meet. And as the week goes on, the response rate and the booking rate goes down. And then, the worst is Friday afternoon, and we have to keep in mind the recipient time zone.
Great. That's helpful. So, if you're sending a message late at night, you're
Hmm.
actually advocating not necessarily sending it first thing in the morning, even though that might be people's assumption, right? Because that's when people are
Yes,
most awake and most alert. But you're saying they're also very busy at that point with lots of email piling up.
exactly. So you may not get their full attention. They may be sending a shorter, terser reply without actually thinking through all your requests. So I feel like it's more about what kind of favorable response do you want to get. That's probably when you have more time for actually thinking through and processing, especially if you're asking for something that requires thought. You want them to get it at a time they will have time to think through.
And do you have data? Do you track data in terms of Boomerang senders? I guess you can't necessarily track the receipts, or you're not tracking the percentage of people who are getting response, right? But you can track maybe the average time that they postpone it till.
So we can actually tell which ones are getting better response rate because we have a feature called remind me if not reply.
Uh-huh.
So from those sets, like we have millions and millions of data point that is basically hand coded, right? For every email, Jeremy, you're sending, you know which of these hundreds of emails, I want these 20 to have a response. So you can say, remind me if not reply.
Hmm.
And then we actually have to go check if you got a reply or not and then move back to reminder or not, depending on if you got a reply or not. So we actually have a whole set of data on what times are better for getting a response or not.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's the data you're drawing on when you gave those
exactly.
guidance. Okay, great. That's a good tip. So that's useful. And then in terms of the inbox pause, do you find that, well, first of all, do you have a sense of how people are using that? And do you find that they're able to be more productive when they're not getting email constantly added to their queue?
Yes, we have a lot of data on, researchers have a lot of data on how interruptions are getting you more stress, giving you more anxiety. And there are even some research, I'm not sure how robust that is, but how being interrupted by email constantly throughout the day is lowering people's IQ points, right? So we believe that it's important for you to create this space for deep thought when you need it. And especially if you are in a creative role like a designer or a developer, you need your maker time. So there is current research recommendations. So this is not research we've done. If these are researchers who've done it, recommendation is to have emails delivered 3 times a day. which substantially reduce your anxiety and stress, but you are still very responsive. So in Inbox Pause, we have this time delivery feature where you can have it come in at 9, after lunch at 1 p.m., again, right before you go back to your home around 4:30, and then making sure that those emails, new emails only come in those ways. I have a friend who actually uses it. She's a prominent VC. She uses it only delivering her new email once a day. So she thinks that her emails are always one day behind, but that still kept her responsive enough. The way I use it is a little bit more ad hoc. I typically don't recommend people process email early in the morning because that really zap all your willpowers by making all these decisions, because email is actually a series of decisions to be made
Mm.
on a list. But some days I just have to. And for those days, I actually pause my inbox, set on some instrumental music, and go through my inbox, because that way I can handle with what's on my queue that's already there without dealing with the constant ping back and the new stuff that's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that frame that email's a series of quick decisions to make. And I agree that the deep work part in the morning is often when you can dive into something you're writing or creating.
Hmm.
An email can be something that it's always going to be there, so you can postpone it potentially. There
Yeah.
are people, though, who will, when we talk about email and sending these intervals like 3 times a day, you mentioned, they'll say, there are people I have to respond to immediately, a boss or a colleague
Hmm.
or something important that I'm managing or running. What do you say to those people who say, I can't email?
We handle that use case very well too. We actually have exceptions to be made. So for us, even us, if when I do inbound pause, I have some critical emails like Google Chrome Web Store is trying to reach me. We need to be able to. So you can set exceptions. So you can say if it's my boss email, or if you have an important client that's really on a deadline, you can make exception for that domain specifically and say if anything's coming from google.com, it will come through. And then you can also make exceptions like keywords. You can say, if you need to reach me immediately and it's on fire, use the word urgent in subject and it will get to me. So we did consider that use case and make sure that people can do it. And I don't recommend inbound calls for every single role, right? There are people who are in sales or customer success. They can't really be inaccessible for hours at a time. But then there are people who need deep work, and those people definitely need inbound pause, because without them, you're just constantly on that treadmill of new email and you're just going all day. And then at the end of the day, you just feel like, what did I do? What did I get done? Right? Did I do all the things that are critical, longer term strategic items that I need to move forward? Am I moving them forward?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the books that I've been reading of late about time and scheduling and deep work, they echo part of what you're saying about scheduling these email interviews. I'm thinking about books like Deep Work by Cal
Hmm.
Newport,
Yep.
Distracted by James Lang, which is more aimed at teachers, but has similar ideas in it,
Hmm.
as well as Indistractable by Nir Eyal.
Near. Yeah.
So these are all a consensus developing around how we do deep work. I think you also had, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago, you had a couple of games where people would try to do as much email as they could
Yes.
in 10 minutes or something, or I forget what the time was. But
Yeah, we call it the email game, and that was trying to gamify getting through your inbox. So we penalize you for not making a decision and reward you for making a clear, quick decision. So either if you're going to respond an email or delete an email or archive, like all of this a good decision because you made a decision, or you can postpone it or leaving it in there. Even like snoozing it to a future time, boomerang it to a future time is still a decision. I am not dealing with it now, but I will deal with it in 2 days, 5 days, a week. Those are all considered good decision. And then the main part is a serial presentation. Instead of you have 50 email on a screen that I can pick and choose,
Mhm.
you only see one email at a time. I think those ideas live on in the newer modern clients like um, Superhuman, right? Now, one email at a time, moving on to the next email as you make the decision. We were just a little bit on steroid. We have timers and points and a little bit more pressure on you to, hey, get it through.
And do you still have that, or was that just a temporary thing you experiment?
We sunset it because it was just really hard to keep up with all the security requirements. And, we didn't have a monetization method at the time.
Yeah,
And our team is really small. As you mentioned, we have 15 people. So there's only so much focus we can have on every single thing. So
yeah.
I think it may come back in a different format at a future time.
Okay. Yeah, I think there is something fun about that, and I do think the gamification idea that you had is actually a playful way to teach people a tricky
Good
skill,
habits.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
good habit
Uh-huh.
and a skill that they may not otherwise develop without
Mhm.
having a coach guiding them
Yes.
in
Yes.
person. You became the CEO recently, or I guess a year ago now, after having been a co-founder more than 10 years ago now. What are a couple things you've learned about that, about managing the team and workflow for the team? And how have you applied those kind of strategies that we're talking about on an individual level to the team level?
I think the main thing is we also moved to remote at the same time. So a little bit of conflation of like me as a new leader and also the fact that everybody is now remote. We are now a lot more conscious about our communication, whether which of the communication channels need to be synchronous and asynchronous. So we have both, right? We want to make sure that people are going to get the human aspect of synchronous communication for when we need it, and also have the efficient deep work and thinking time for things like architecture review, right? You want them to go ahead and work on that asynchronously and then come together to just discuss it. So we've been a lot more consciously thoughtful about how we work. So one of the first thing that I did was wrote down the how we work session of our guiding principle doc, which has what are the communication channels that we typically use and what type of information belong on each channel.
Mm.
So what should go on Slack versus what should go on email versus what should go on wiki page. How do we collaborate? So things that need live collaboration and editing, we use it on Google Doc. And if they are one off that doesn't need to be moved into our permanent repository in Wiki, that's fine. So like we're writing a customer emails and everybody's helping in edit, that's fine. But if you're writing a design document, we might write it in Google Doc, but once it's logged and everybody has reviewed it, we move it to Wikipedia. The Confluence is what we do. So move it to Confluence because the main advantage is much easier to search, easier to link to relevant other documents. And then I also wrote up a very specific guide on how we do meetings. So for each type of meeting that we do, we have the best practices and guidance and what to expect.
Mm. And what are a couple of things that you think how has that helped? What's been a specific impact that you've seen that's been a positive change?
I think it's just that we are more on top of things, right? Things that we have typically might have forgotten or slipped through the cracks are more, we make sure that we catch them. So a funny thing that we do is we actually go read postmortem from the previous projects for the same type of project before we work on a new project.
Mm.
And that's a checklist item now. And that becomes a habit, right? When we were all together and didn't have that kind of very formally documented that way, we sometimes forget what we learned from what we done. But because we are in person, we'll be like, oh, didn't we do this? And don't we remember this? Like sometimes we can jog it. But now that we're all on Zoom, it's great to have this like very specific, like go read the postmortem from the last two projects before you start this one. And then the other one is like when we have new hires, now we're expanding and adding a lot of people and they're joining our team for the first time and it's all remote. They know exactly what to expect, right? We say, hey, we're going to do daily stand up at this time and it is on Zoom and it is on video. And I explain why, because we want to make sure that our human elements and seeing each other's faces before we start the workday is important to us. So then when you're a new hire, you see that and like, this is the team norms and this is what I should expect. Or if they're going to start a weekly meeting because they are a new functional lead, they have a playbook of how to do it. And we even make sure that like it's not all standardized. Each team lead implement it differently, but expectations are clear that weekly meetings, the meeting notes are taken live collaboratively. So we do not have this assigned note taker role where in some companies it tend to fall on women to be the one taking notes. We have this very informal, everybody write into the same live meeting agenda, and it's a running agenda document. And every time that somebody talk about this is what we need to do or action item, we make sure that there's an owner and a deadline. And if there is no specific deadline is set, the assumption is the next weekly meeting is the default deadline. So that's like a organized, standardized way to set expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have multiple collaborators owning an action item. We make sure that there's an owner. The owner is responsible for making sure these collaborators are getting together and getting it done. So we only put the owner and the deadline so that the owner is going and getting all the items they need.
And do you use a project management tool for that? Or let's back up. What is the tool stack you're using? You mentioned Slack, you mentioned Google Docs, you mentioned Confluence. What are some of the other tools?
We are mostly on Confluence, Jira. We have Slack just for ad hoc, Google Doc for the documentation that are collaborative. And then the weekly agendas and stuff are actually on Google Doc. But I'm thinking about moving to Confluence at some point. It's just a Confluence get really hard to manage when you have a really long running document.
Mm.
And then there are things like weekly meeting notes, quarterly planning documents. These are all different formats, and it depends on the team for them to agree on whether they prefer Google Doc or Confluence.
And I'm assuming you're using Gmail in your own product as well in your communications back and forth?
Yes. We are on every one of our company like guiding principle. The first one is we use our own products because that's important to us, and that's how we get the superpower of empathy with our customers.
Talking about individual productivity, we're getting to the start of this 2023 year, and you are someone who's trying to help people work more efficiently. What are a couple of specific things in your own workflow? You're managing a big team, you're managing a growing company. There's a lot of different things that you're focusing on. How do you make sure that your workflow is optimized? What are a couple of tricks that you use or workflow tips that you have?
I think the best thing that I have come up with is segmenting my week into themes. So each Mondays is usually for customer facing. So our customer success and sales team meet that day. And then a lot of customer related meetings happen that day. Tuesdays are my external vendors and any contractors, vendors, anything that is external facing is usually my Tuesdays. Wednesday morning is cross-functional so that people can get together and talk through what's going to happen. And then I save my Wednesday afternoon for my maker times. My Wednesday afternoon is always blocked, no meeting, no calls. And that's when I get my deep work done. So usually this month I'm starting to plan for about Q1 in 2023. That's when I need that time. And then Thursday is our weekly meeting. So all our weekly meetings happens on Thursday, and it's exhausting but it's very efficient because we are in this mindset of everybody is coming together for different functions and things that we need to remind each other or move from each other. It happens in the same way. And then Friday, I usually save the morning for real work. And then Friday afternoon, I actually set aside for my mentoring / connecting with other entrepreneurs and learning. And it's like a little bit looser. Hey, I need to have this meeting, but I'm not sure what's the exact theme or what the value of the meeting is. I put them on Friday afternoon, and I manage that by using bookable schedules. So the previous at the beginning, we would talk about meeting scheduling tool. So I set up different bookable schedule for each type of the meeting. And then when somebody is, hey, I want to talk to you about this, a particular topic, I gave them the schedule that is set aside for that time. And it helps me with context switching. I don't have to go from vendor meeting to internal meeting to something else. So it's really nice. So that's been the best, like, internal tooling that I made for myself. And then I have also started much more rigid time for self-care. I make sure that I take a 30-minute walk during lunch every single day. And that's a non-negotiable. I have it on my calendar. What else?
What about your
And then,
tool? Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
and yes, my best tool I would recommend is Flow Club. It's been my new addition to 2022 tool set. Is a group co-working on video. I don't know if you've seen it. It's by Focus Made or this kind of pairing thing. You show up, talk for the first 5 minutes, what you're going to work on for the next 50 minutes, work together with video on, voice is on mute, the host plays some sort of music, and then everybody work together. At the end of the sessions, you talk about what you finished, what you didn't finish, the accountability, and the fact that they are kind of strangers is helpful too.
Mm.
Like, I don't think I would enjoy it with like everybody from your own team, because then there's a lot more awkwardness maybe there, or there's more expectations of, oh, how productive are you? Yeah. It's been my like flow inducing, like flow on demand.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And do you have a couple other final tools to recommend? The newsletter is
Mm.
about tools, and people are really interested in improving their own tool set and toolkit. For example, with note taking and managing all the notes you have on all the various different projects you're working on, do you have a good way of having an external second brain, for example, or other ways of managing your notes and materials?
I don't. Boomerang has been my kind of the to-do list manager in a way, because things come into my inbox and I set it back to when I want them to come back, or set reminders. I do a lot of send later if no reply, which is interesting because I only send the reminder if you didn't give me what you promised to give me. And then the other thing that I found is both Google Workspace and Confluence have a session for finding all your to-do items. So finding those actually has been helpful. I just have them as bookmark, and then I can look through what are the items that are assigned to me personally. Because I can sometimes become a bottleneck as the CEO to review items. And if I don't have a handle on what's on tap, it could logjam other people.
And finally, as we move into 2023, what can you give us as a sneak peek into anything you might be working on or thinking about as a potential future features, future products, future services?
We are thinking a lot about some of the inbound pause feature. When we first released it, it was pretty early on. So there are some evolution of the feature that can be more intelligent and contextual with what you're doing. So that's something we are thinking about. We also are thinking about getting the bookable schedule to be more useful for teams so that they can have more standardized scheduling experience across the whole company. And then we've been getting a lot of requests for different like extensions of what we're doing. So Respondable, I really want to play with ChatGPT or any GPT-3 and layer that with Respondable, but I don't know if we'll have time to or resources to do it.
Great. Thank you for sharing this. It's really interesting to hear about what you're working on, and congrats on reaching 2 million users and 8 million recurring revenue. That's really great and really impactful, helpful product for people. There are a lot of tools now that I see that are doing some of these things, including Superhuman, you mentioned, and
Yeah.
various other email clients, but you were really doing this, I think, way ahead of many of the other current players. So kudos to you on identifying that open space really early on and then capitalizing on it.
Yeah, we really love innovating in this space. We have now 7 patents in different parts of both email and meeting scheduling. and we intend to keep the innovation pace. We're actually going to do a company hackathon.
Ah, that's interesting. I do actually have one bonus question, which is about email
Mhm.
itself. Email as a format, as a protocol, hasn't
Mhm.
really changed very much for quite some time, right?
Yes.
A couple of
Mhm.
decades, basically. And there are a lot of things that you can do all over the web that you cannot do in email. It's That's a positive in some ways, right? Because people don't have to have the most fancy tools. They can access email on any device, on any platform. But it also means that there's a limit to what you can do with email. Do you
Right.
envision that the protocol itself could advance at some point in the near future or distant future, or do you think that it's really fixed in its current format indefinitely?
We've been involving a lot of the email enthusiasts, people who have been trying to expand on. There are other like features like aspiring email type of header that people have wanted, and a lot of people are like, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. The main thing is we don't have a very big organization or organized organization that is moving it from the point of view of email as the protocol, not just the like Gmail is doing some innovation, Outlook is doing some innovations, and they don't really want to make it easier for like users of other platforms. So I think there needs to be a functional working group in kind of like many open source tools. Like you need a functional working group that is moving the protocol itself into the next generation of technology. I wish we have the time and resources to lead that charge, but we don't. As we grow, maybe we'll get to it.
Great. Thank you very much, Moah. Really, really appreciate it. Great talking with you.
Thank you so much.